No one really knows what lies in the depths of the oceans. These mysterious deep bodies of water are capable of anything you can imagine. Unfortunately, the greatest human minds have failed to decipher these vast, endless oceans and seas. No one can really predict what might wash up ashore from one of these. Sometimes it's just underwater creatures no one has seen before, but at other times exceptionally strange things tend to get vomited out by the waters. While some of the stories you hear might just be tales spun over time, there's a few inexplicable things we all want answers to. Here's a list of the top 12 strangest things that have washed up on shores and have left people confused about their origins and how they ended up in the water to begin with. Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe and click the notification bell for more such amazing content. Let's dive in. Number 12. MURIWAI Monster. Starting the list with this monster, although don't let the name fool you, this huge piece of flotsam washed ashore on the MURIWAI beach located in Auckland, New Zealand. As you can see, this thing looks creepy and terrifying, as if it's some extraterrestrial entity that appears in a sci-fi horror mystery. There was a lot of speculation regarding this MURIWAI monster. People had all kinds of theories, from assuming it was an old drowned Maori canoe to some believing it was a giant sea animal that died and was invaded by something else. It's such a mysterious thing that once its photos hit social media, people started filing in to check it out. The scientists of the New Zealand Marine Sciences Society think that it was just a very large piece of driftwood that became the habitat of numerous gooseneck barnacles. The reality probably isn't as exciting as we'd hoped, but this weird and ugly monster resembling wood is a one-of-a-kind occurrence. Number 11. It rained Easter eggs in Germany. This story is a tad bit more festive, hence more interesting. On the island of Langurg, Germany, in the year 2017, people were at the beach hoping to enjoy the weather, go for a swim and maybe catch a few rays. But to their surprise, they were greeted by thousands of Easter eggs that were scattered all over the beach. The children were obviously elated at the sight and immediately wanted to dig in and find out what treats this colourful egg had to offer. As expected, every single egg had a toy inside. This was probably one of the most fun mysteries the locals had come across. But how did these eggs wash up ashore, you may ask? Turns out a storm at sea was the reason behind it. Freight ships were transporting these eggs when the weather suddenly got hostile and 5 freight containers fell overboard. These containers opened up due to the fall and their contents spilled out into the ocean. But cleaning up this happy mess was a fun task, and the town mayor let the kindergartners take home all the eggs they could carry with them. So the beach was cleaned, children were elated, and the community got to bond over a strange but happy accident. This is what we call the silver lining. Number 10. Neptune's grass. This is probably the strangest one on the list. Neptune's grass is something that grows under the southern Australian coasts. The remains of this grass intermingled and led to the formation of this hairball-like thing you can see in the footage. If you're expecting these balls to be small, think again, because the average ball of Neptune grass is roughly as big as an adult fist. These big brownish balls of fuzz will eventually wash up on shore, especially after the storms hit the coasts. Locals are used to finding thousands of these balls appear overnight. It's a strange grass, but its presence on the beaches is pretty harmless and poses no direct threat to the people or the environment, but we all know too much of anything is bad. Number 9. Portuguese man of war, England. In 2017, locals at the Perranporth beach were greeted by what looked like around 140 deflated blue and purple balloons. But to everyone's surprise, these turned out to be strange tentacled multicoloured underwater creatures. At first sight, anyone would assume they're from a different planet, but that's not the truth. These are Portuguese man-o'-wars, and they're a deadly species of jellyfish. Their sting can be fatal, and their tentacles can grow up to lengths as long as 50 meters. It's nothing out of the ordinary to find jellyfish on shores, but this particular member of the jellyfish family is rarely sighted, and it's better to stay away from it. These typically are native to the Atlantic Ocean, but the strong winds over the ocean have caused these beautiful but dangerous creatures to wash up on beaches. Number 8. Giant squid, Wellington Beach, New Zealand. This creature very much seems a fantasy. Being a deep-sea creature, it's a pretty rare occurrence for huge squids to be found ashore. But contrary to the normal, a few divers at the Wellington Beach of New Zealand found a 4.2-meter-long giant squid lying dead on the beach. Although the local divers are used to seeing many deep-water animals like sharks, the giant squid wasn't something they could claim was a normal sighting. It's hard not to feel terrified swimming with something 3 times your size. The divers were obviously compelled to take photos of the squid, some even snapped a few selfies laying next to it. As expected, this squid caught the public attention as soon as its pictures and the backstory hit the internet. Weirdly, the divers claimed that when they left the squid for a while and returned, it seemed shrunken, so no one can actually be sure how big it was before it was discovered. Number 7. Conjoined dolphin twins of Turkey. This one must have caught your attention too. This bizarre event occurred back in 2014 at a beach in Turkey, where a tourist found these conjoined dolphin twins on the shore in the town of Izmir. At first, a lot of people assumed this was just a hoax staged to gain attention, as finding conjoined twins in the marine world is exceptionally rare, and there are only 5 documented cases of conjoined dolphin twins to date. The two-headed dolphin was around 1 meter in length, and experts were able to determine its age, which was rumored to be just about 12 months. Even more astounding is the fact that this is one of the only 2 documented cases of conjoined dolphin twins to have lived past the fetal stage. The dolphins were probably thrown out of the water due to a storm and died before they could make their way back. And this story gets even more mysterious because when the representatives of the local university came to collect the body to study and put it on display, it was nowhere to be found. Mind-boggling, right? Number 6. Dinosaur thigh bone, Washington Beach, USA. When the scientists of Washington, USA went out to the beach in search of small spiral shells of extinct animals called ammonites, what they did not expect to find was a dinosaur femur bone. The huge bone was once part of the body of the top of a 2-legged carnivorous dinosaur that resembled the infamous species we know as T-Rex and Velociraptor. They believe it to be 80 million years old. Of course, the discovery was incredibly cool, but it has also helped solidify the evidence in favor of the fact that dinosaurs once roamed the lands of Washington State, the USA. The femur had probably been buried under the earth, but the tide coming in and out with time led to recession over the overlying earth, and it managed to bring the bone closer to the surface. Imagine finding the remnants of a creature you only see in movies and cartoons on your local beach while taking a leisurely walk. It must cause a confusing minute of feelings. Number 5. World War II era love letters, Sandy Hook Bay, New Jersey. This one will just swell your heart if you're a hopeless romantic, because let's face it, who doesn't adore love letters? A total of 57 love letters were found on the beach by a 14-year-old boy in New Jersey just before the place was hit by Hurricane Sandy. The letters were written by a young woman residing in New Jersey to a lover who lived in Vermont. No one can tell where these notes were in the ocean or how they ended up here, but they were brought to the shore by the strong currents. Luckily for us, these letters made it to the beach and restored our faith in true love. These letters were written up to the evening of the couple's wedding day. They were found sealed in a box, and of course they got wet in the water. The boy who discovered them was able to save them by drying each one separately. He also read each of them. Every letter ended with, "I love you dear and miss you very much, all my love always, Dottie." No doubt finding like this are something we can all relate to, despite the mundane realities of life. Number 4. Rotting whale corpse, Hulung Beach, Indonesia. This bizarre find seems straight out of a marine horror movie. It was first found by a local on a beach in Indonesia. At first, everyone thought it was an old washed-up boat, but it turns out it was the rotting corpse of a beluga whale. As the onlookers got closer to it, they could not help but feel nauseated by the horrendous stench of the corpse, and it was oozing a thick red liquid. This fluid came out because of the gases building up in the body and the blood due to the microorganism activity. Along with the grease from its body, the fluid was seeping into the surrounding water, giving it a reddish hue. The gas in the body kept it afloat, and the scientists predicted that the whale was long dead in the sea before it got thrown out of the water. Experts have claimed that the whale had been rotting for a minimum of 2 weeks, but could be as long as months owing to the degradation. Number 3. Liverless sharks, South Africa. In the year 2017, South Africa saw 3 separate occasions of great white shark bodies washing up on the shore. But there was something peculiar about these sharks. All of them were lacking their livers. The logical assumption would be that people removed the livers themselves, but the reality was different. A small team of researchers examined the bodies and performed autopsies to determine the reason behind this strange lack of liver. The culprit was determined to be an orca. You must imagine how large the orca was, because these sharks are huge. The largest shark was 5 meters long and weighed around 1,100 kilograms. Weirdly, one of the sharks was also missing its heart, so basically the orcas took the most nutrient-rich parts of the shark's body. Number 2. Giant pipes, England. Beachgoers in Norfolk, England didn't expect to find gigantic pipes all along the sand one fine morning in the year 2017. One of the pipes was more than half a kilometre long. A human could easily have walked in them. They had a 2.5-meter wide opening in the center. People were quite curious as to where they came from, and just like the MURIWAI monster, there were a lot of incredible theories. The reality was, however, quite simple. These pipes had fallen out of a Norwegian boat that was on its way to an Algerian power plant. The unusual appearance did manage to draw in a fair amount of onlookers and quite a few social media posts that made it viral. The Norwegian company named Pipe Life, which was responsible for the transport of these pipes, requested the spectators to stay away from them, in case one of those got caught in the tide and was swept back into the sea while people were close to them, inside, or swimming in the vicinity. It could lead to fatal consequences. A recovery team was sent to the beach as soon as possible to clean up the accidental mess, and nobody was hurt. This event, however, did become a story the locals will be retelling for quite a long time. Number 1. Tombstones, Ocean Beach, San Francisco. We saved the creepiest one for the last. It was back in 2014 when locals visiting the ocean beach of San Francisco discovered this murky scene. This time it wasn't a weird scary animal, rather tombstones dating back to the late 1800s. It turns out that at the end of the century the local population of the city had increased faster than expected. This led to real estate expansions utilizing all kinds of land, including that of cemeteries, to keep up with demand. The city had the tombstones from the cemeteries removed to aid in the construction. The stones were then dumped into a landfill to be used as sea walls. However, all of the tombstones didn't make it to the landfill. Some were straight up thrown in the water, and over time, with erosion and shifting sand, these stories managed to make an appearance on the shores. That's all for today's list. We hope you were as surprised by these as we were. For more videos like this, keep watching our channel. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and stay tuned for more smashingly informative content.